I can't do this thing. So Arjuna, his behavior seems to be a religious act. But Krishna tells him, no, you should fight. And Arjuna is telling him, Yarimam apitikaram asastram shastapanaya. Dhartarashtra ranehanyus tam meg shimattaram bhavet. He said, it's better for me if the sons of Dhritarashtra, with their weapons in their hands, they come and kill me. And I put my weapons down. And then the final verse in the chapter. Evam upvarjuna sankye ratopashta upavishant vishrijasa saram chapam shoka samvignamanasa. And then Sanjaya says, Arjuna, having thus spoken on the battlefield, put down his bow and arrows and sat down on the chariot, his mind overwhelmed with grief. This is suicide. If there's, I don't know, how many millions of people, 10 million people or so want to kill you, and you have a bow which you can defend yourself, and you put it down, sitting right in front of them, that's suicide. He no longer wanted to live. And he says this, better that I die than kill them. And Arjuna is speaking like this because he's very deeply absorbed in what his conception of what is right and what is wrong. There's a verse that Krishna speaks to Arjuna in the Adi Purana, which is quoted twice in Hari Bhakti Vilas, and a couple times I think also in Bhakti Sandarbha. Manimitam kritam papam apidarmaya kopite mama naditadamapi papam shanma prabhavata. It's not a verse we should tell people when they first come to the temple at the Sunday feast program. Krishna tells Arjuna, Manimitam kritam papam apidarmaya kopite. If someone does sin for me, that sin becomes dharma. And mama nadityo dharmopi. If they neglect me, then their so-called dharma becomes pap. It becomes sin. This is the basis of Bhagavad Gita. The basis of the Bhagavad Gita begins with Arjuna getting a good slap in the face from Krishna. Krishna's telling him, in effect, if you want me to be your chariot driver, if you want me to direct you, you're going to have to fight. And you're going to have to understand who the enemy is. And the enemy, Arjuna, is your misconceptions. And seeing that in front of him, this causes this vishad, this lamentation in the heart of Arjuna. And that lamentation, as we'll hear more tomorrow, is a source of his surrender to Krishna. It ends up being a good thing, which is something important also we can discuss further later on, that this lamentation can be used in two ways. It can be destructive in a higher sense, where we just give up Krishna consciousness. I just can't fight anymore. I can't do this anymore. It's too much. It's too difficult for me. Or where we use that as a kind of springboard to cause our heart to cry, and use that as a reason to cry out to Krishna, and becomes the basis of our spiritual life. The basis of Bhagavad Gita, the basis of Gaudiya Vaishnavas. We'll discuss more of this in the next couple of days. So we'll stop there. Does anybody have any comments or questions about anything? We went through a lot of verses really quick. Prabhuji.
So what you're saying is that Krishna, he can also even, like you shared your example, your life.
Krishna?
No, you shared in your example with your mother who tried to commit suicide. Then also my life was not optimal. My upbringing. So I feel that my material background, if I let go of Krishna, I feel this is what I'm getting. I don't have any Vedic upbringing. So Krishna, he's using that to as an impetus to help us surrender.
Yes. Isn't it? And Krishna describes in the Gita 4 different types of persons come to him, one of whom is someone who suffers. And as we'll discuss more later from Paramatma Sundara, Jiva Goswami says some very interesting things about suffering and its purpose for devotees. It has many different purposes. It helps us in different ways. I think, without even asking for a show of hands, I think everybody has suffered. And that's partly why we've come. We may not have come for that motivation. We may be a high-class person who came because I wanted to know what Krishna was. But if you're a high-class person and you want to know what Krishna is, you're going to suffer in this world because you're not going to find answers very easy. It's going to be very, very painful for so long. So everybody here, we've all experienced some kind of suffering. And as we'll hear from Jiva Goswami, that suffering helps us to understand the hearts of other persons. Because we're all meant to be generous. We're all meant to be instruments of Krishna's mercy. But if we become absorbed in selfishness, absorbed in our own lamentation, absorbed in our own problems, then there's no question of giving to other people. Anything else? Also, if anybody has any introspections or anything, that's nice over there. Mataji?
Yes. I really like this, way of starting off. And sometimes we meet people, and they have great sufferings, and they have experienced pains that, I have never been really close to them. And sometimes it's very difficult to face them and to level with them in a sincere way. Because you can't just stay in their suffering thing. You can't just be good and say, Hare Krishna. And what is a good way to approach that in a sincere way that is also, how to say, effective, because you want to, bridge the suffering. You don't want to stay in the suffering.
I think you use the best word, sincere. We should be sincere. And sincerity means honesty. If we contemplate on that, honesty is the basic principle of all relationships. There's no honesty, how would there be a marriage? There's no honesty between the parents and the child, how would there be? There can't be any trust. You can't go deeper in your relationship. But honesty is very, very important. It's also very important in bhakti. Jiva Goswami, he speaks about 2 types of bhakti. Sakaitava, 2 types of bhajan. Sakaitava bhajan and niskapata bhajan, or bhajan with some duplicitousness. It's not straightforward. And bhajan that is straightforward. So, just like we've been thinking recently about Rath Yatra in Puri, it's coming up very soon. And it's a long discussion, but I'll just mention it very briefly. It's an interesting story. On the day of Pandava Nirjala Ekadasi, when there's not an extra month like there's this year, there's a special festival that goes on in the Jagannath Mandir. And Lakshmi gets married to Jagannath. And it's very joyous, and they take and they tie their cloths together. They're very nice, and they're newlyweds. And for 4 days they enjoy some newlywed bliss. And then 4 days after that is a Purnima. And Krishna is feeling separation from the Brijvasis, although he doesn't tell his wife that. And so he says, well, today's Snan Purnima, it's my birthday. It's the day Jagannath appeared in the Gundicha temple. So I'd like to have a public bath. And he goes up on top of the roof. It's a long story. He becomes sick. And Lakshmi Devi doesn't sleep for 15 days. She's a really good wife. After 15 days, you can't blame her. She falls asleep. And the first thing Jagannath does when she falls asleep, he unties the knot, and he gets on his chariot to go visit his girlfriends. It's pretty bad. Lakshmi Devi wakes up a couple days later, and she looks around, and she says, so where's my husband? And the Pandits say, he kind of, he went to see his girlfriends. So Lakshmi Devi doesn't appreciate that very much. So what does she do? There's a ceremony. They carry the deity in a palanquin of Lakshmi Devi, and they go to visit Goddess Bimala Devi. Because when a lady has a problem, she goes to another lady. And she complains to Bimala Devi, my husband, he took his sister Subhadra. He could have taken me. Why didn't he take me? It's not right. And Goddess Bimala Devi, there's a discussion going on between the two of them. The Pandits act that out in different mantras and verses they recite. And Bimala Devi says, yeah, all men are like that. They're all, don't worry. And she gives her some special magic powder, which you could probably make a lot of money off of if you could get. And she says, You take this and blow it in Jagannath's face and he'll come back. So it's a long story. But that's the nature of compassion. If you've been through something, then you can relate to that. So pretty much, just correct me if I'm wrong, but pretty much all ladies have had a bad experience with men at one point or another. And a lot of men have had bad experiences with ladies too. But so they can relate to that. So you go to a lady and you tell them, this guy, I know, mine did the same thing to me too. The last 3 of them did it to me. It's really, really bad. So we have some empathy. But then, as you're saying, what if I haven't been through that? Then, in that case, we have our sincerity. We don't have empathy, but we have sincerity. And we can say, wow, I never went through that. And sometimes I can tell devotees, I tell them with honesty. We met one lady recently who came to us in Kiev, and she told us that she's married, but her husband has told her she can't be a devotee. And that means she's not allowed to chant. If he sees her chanting, the marriage is over. She's not allowed to offer the food. If he sees her offering the food, the marriage is over. She's not allowed to keep pictures of Krishna. What should she do? She wants to be a devotee. So we spoke some things. And I told her with sincerity, I'd never been through a situation like that. But I told her, I said, you know, you're a better devotee than me. Because I don't know if I could go through that. And so I couldn't relate personally to her experience and give some empathy in that way. But with sincerity, I could tell her very honestly to the point that you're a better devotee than me. You're going through a greater test than I've ever gone through, and you're still chanting. God bless you. Is that okay? Wanted to add something?
Yeah, I wanted to say of generosity, such an actual topic. I didn't realize actually that it was called Festival of Generosity. But now I realize that I'm since 1 year in Krishna consciousness, and in the beginning I was very enthusiastic, and I had a period very recently that I went completely down and I didn't want to hear anything about Krishna. And I was thinking, what on earth I'm going to do with Bhakti-sangha? And so when I came here and I started to gain my inspiration again, and now I kind of go in tune again, and I realized that I came into Krishna consciousness always with intention of what can I get here for myself. And the more I was chanting, the more inspiring I found it to chant not for myself but for others. And more and more I come to the conclusion that it's not for myself I'm doing it for, but I'm doing it, I have to do it for others. And then I get the examples for people which live in my heart, of people that crossed my path shortly, you know, and I really felt like, I felt so inspired to pray for them. And yeah, it's really a great topic, the Festival of Generosity. But I don't know, this whole Krishna consciousness community, I think it's about what you say, the generosity, what we can give to others, not in the first place what we can get for ourselves, but I think we are here not even for ourselves, but for each other. Yeah,
what a beautiful realization. Thank you. Isn't that nice?
Yes.
My Guru Maharaj used to sometimes say that if you want to know a secret of bhajan, pray for other people. We should feel something for other people. And that's why it's so important that we come together as devotees also. And we should give to other devotees. And the more that we give, the amazing thing in Krishna consciousness is that Prabhu used to say, the more that you give, the more you have. It's just the opposite of material life. In material life, the more you give, the less you have. But in spiritual life, the more that we give, the more that we give. So thank you. That's a really beautiful comment. I really appreciate that. Is there anything else, Maharaj?
Something about praying. That we have to pray for each other. We have to pray for a special person who prays for Krishna. But sometimes, how is this praying? How long do we pray? If you pray 20 years and doesn't really have anything, should we stop to pray, or again stubborn pray and pray and pray? What is this?
This is a really interesting question. It's something we've been discussing recently with some other friends. Oftentimes we hear devotees even put things on the internet, please pray for such and such person. And sometimes, very honestly, a lot of devotees, they feel a little uneasy with that. Is that really correct? I mean, is that maybe because we're coming from a Judeo-Christian background, most of us, and that's what you do with Christianity. That's a big thing. You pray for other persons, and they send out a text message on the phone. Today we're going to pray for this person. And many times it seems a little mechanical and a little bit, as Prabhupada called it, churchianity. A little bit just like mundane religion. Srila Prabhupada also, however, he told the devotees sometimes to pray for him when he had some sickness or something. But he didn't tell them to pray in the kind of mood that we hear coming from mundane religionists. Srila Prabhupada told the devotees, you pray to Krishna. First of all, he said you just chant do extra kirtan. You chant more. And you can pray to Krishna, my dear Krishna, if you want to keep him. His service is not finished, and if you want to keep Srila Prabhupada here, you do that. The prayer is with an attitude of, Krishna, what can we do for you? What do you want? It's not that I'm in control and that my prayers are so powerful that I'm going to heal someone. And that religion, all that religion means is that I'm going to have some special Shakti to be able to heal some person. Before I became a devotee, when I was a young boy, I experienced as a teenager my parents forcing me to go to a really abominable Christian church. I really hated it. And they were some born-again kind of people. And there was one particular lady, they liked to watch her TV shows. I became an atheist, actually, because of this. Her name was Catherine Kuhlman. And she had a TV show, and she'd start the show with the title of her show. She'd come out and she'd say, I believe in miracles. And that's what the show was all about. And people would come, and once they took me to a stadium, a football stadium, of people going to see her. And there were like hundreds of people in wheelchairs, and people couldn't walk, and people couldn't talk, and all kinds of different ailments. And she was calling them on the stage and said, in the name of Jesus. And they would jump up and start walking, and jump up and down. And everybody was so impressed. They were asking for donations. In each row, in the football stadium, there's a lot of rows. They were passing around buckets like this big. And people were putting in huge amounts of money. And I thought, this is a little weird. I don't really believe in this. And we see, if you speak to those people who become healed, most of them, it doesn't last such a long time. And people, thoughtful people, are not very impressed with that. You can see there's some power of suggestion, there's some power of hope. And maybe they even have a little bit of Shakti. Is that what religion is about? To heal my body? That's the meaning of life? I couldn't walk before, now I can walk. So this religion must be bona fide because it healed my body. It may be persuasive for people who are very attached to their body. But for someone who understands something higher, we're not interested in that. So the devotees' prayers are different. The devotees never want to see anything different than Krishna wants. And so the devotees, especially if they pray, please Krishna, please bless them. Please give them Krishna praying. Please take away the obstacles from their bhakti. These are the kind of prayers of the devotees. Not just, oh, this person has cancer, please let them live longer. Some devotees, Karma-Rupa Prabhu just left, some devotees were writing, I saw on Facebook, he should go to this cancer specialist, and this one and that one. And I heard some things from some friends in Vrindavan, and they said, no, he doesn't want that. He stopped eating. Now he's ready to leave. He just wants to go. You can offer prayers for him, but don't pray for his stupid body. He's giving that up. Pray something else. Pray that he can be thinking of Radha and Krishna when he leaves his body or something. Okay? So I think we've gone a little over time. We'll stop there. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Swami Bhakta Binda ki jai.